Welcome to Marmalade Juice. I'm going to show you how easy it is to take an existing iOS project and convert it to a Marmalade Juice project. Then walk through the simple steps required to get this project to build and deploy to an Android device. The project I'm going to use to demonstrate this is called Puff Puff. You can see it here. What you can see here is the original iOS project with no changes made. First of all, I'm going to show that this is a real working project. This is using the standard iOS toolchain. There is no Marmalade Juice involved at this point. I'm using Xcode 5 here. You can see on the left, it's a pretty normal looking iOS project. It is using a source version of the iPhone Cocos 2D project, so you can see lots of Objective-C source for the engine there. And then down here are the game classes, which are mainly Objective-C. Then we have some resources, which are PNG, sounds and fonts. When we hit Run to build, it is going to compile this for the iPhone simulator. And as you can see, it is starting on its side here. This is because this project uses a slightly older version of Cocos 2D, and it creates a portrait view, and then does a force rotate. So here you can see it running in the simulator for iOS. I'll close this down now and switch to Marmalade Juice and show you how we are going to convert it. I've already downloaded and installed the Marmalade SDK, which includes Marmalade Juice. So if I open up Applications now, you'll see we have a Marmalade.app. Double-click on this. This opens up a tool called the Marmalade Hub. The Hub is the front-end project management system for Marmalade. It gives you a rich interface to create and manage projects, but it also includes lots of useful tools, such as the dependency checker, which helps you ensure you have everything you need to get started with Marmalade. Opening the dependency checker, you can see that it has already checked that I have an IDE installed for editing, which is Xcode. Now let's check the Android section. All I need with Marmalade is Java installed. I don't need the Android SDK or NDK. It will just work out of the box. But when I come to making a build for a store, I'll need to fill in the signing certificate section, and I can use the NDK if I want to build additional Android extensions to use with my app. But for now, no additional setup is needed. I'll close this and we'll go straight into converting our project. From the splash screen, there are direct links to the starter tutorial and examples. When you first open the Marmalade Juice project view in the Hub, you will see that there are no projects on the side here. The first step is to convert an existing iOS project. So I click the Convert Xcode button, and then select my Xcode project using the Browse button. I will also check the Analyze Before Conversion option. Marmalade Juice includes an analyzer feature, which will scan the iOS project to determine which iOS framework functions it uses and provides an indication of which ones are already supported by Marmalade Juice. It is typical that a project won't be 100% supported by Marmalade Juice, but there are ways that you can work around this and add additional implementations if you want. So don't be alarmed if the output here says that there's a function missing or there is a feature that is not supported. Those can be added. After reviewing the output, I click Convert Project to continue. Marmalade Juice will now create a Marmalade MKB project out of the Xcode project. MKB is Marmalade's cross-platform project format, which is used across the SDK. When I click Done, you can see it has opened the project view here. The project view lets you control all of the different actions. I'm going to click Open in IDE to open the project up like a regular Xcode project. And here we see Puff Puff again in Xcode 5. Over on the left here are all our files, but this is now a Marmalade project and not an iOS project. We have the original Puff Puff source still, so if I go into Classes, you can see the original Objective-C and C++ files completely unchanged. Also, the CoCos 2D source from before is completely unchanged, so we're going to be compiling native Objective-C code. The additional thing, though, is a Marmalade Juice folder. This is replacing the iOS frameworks. Cocotron is the implementation of the Cocoa Touch and Core framework, and Chameleon is the implementation of UIKit. There is also the Objective-C runtime itself and some additional useful libraries. So what I'm going to do now is build for x86 for the desktop simulator. I'm going to do a release build, and this is using the Marmalade toolchain now. It is going to build a Marmalade binary, and it's going to run in the same Marmalade simulator that ships with the Marmalade SDK, rather than using Apple's simulator. Our simulator will now open up, and you will see that I have pre-configured the simulator to an Android resolution. So this is running in 800 by 480. But the game code was written to run on 480 by 320 devices. So what Marmalade is doing is auto-scaling using a virtual screen resolution system. If we look in the runtime configuration here, you can see the setting. And if I wanted to, I can turn this off and then tweak the game myself to better adapt to the different resolutions. But the great thing is that out of the box, it just works. I can play the game as before, all very much the same, but now I can use Marmalade simulator options to, for example, use the live accelerometer control to control the accelerometer on the desktop. I'm now going to show you how to deploy the game to a real device. Firstly, I'm going to switch the scheme to ARM in order to build an ARM binary for the device. Again, I will create a release build. Hit build, and once again, it is using Marmalade's toolchain to create an ARM binary. If I switch back to the hub, we are now going to use the hub to push our build to the device. So rather than the simulator here, I'm going to pick Android ARM. I could use the configuration menu here to modify settings for icons, splash screens, and so on very easily through a GUI. But by default, everything is there to get a build that will run. I'm going to switch to release since we have made a release build, and as you can see, everything has turned green, as it has picked up that the build has succeeded. I'll just hit Package, Install, and Run, and push that straight to my Nexus 7 tablet. And there we can see that running on the Nexus 7 device scaled nicely to the screen. Touch is working. The accelerometer is working. I can pinch and zoom to control the fish. That is a start-to-finish run-through of getting an iOS game running on an Android device with Marmalade Juice.